well, from everybody's perspective. But it was intriguing to note how people, there was the word they kept using here, pivoted. So they pivoted using either the strengths of what they did before to deliver it slightly differently.
For decades, Princess Anne has stayed silent about her true feelings regarding Princess Diana, fueling endless speculation about their relationship. But now, at 74, the famously stoic royal has broken her silence, and what she revealed has sent shockwaves through the world. In a rare moment of, Anne admitted truths about Diana, their complicated bond, and the struggles within the royal family that were hidden behind closed doors. Her candid words are rewriting everything we thought we knew about the monarchy and Diana's legacy. Princess Anne breaks. Decades of silence on Princess Diana. For decades, Princess Anne has been known for her no-nonsense attitude and her steadfast refusal to indulge in public drama. Unlike other members of the royal family, she has always kept her private thoughts exactly that, private. But now, at 74, the Princess Royal has finally broken her silence about her relationship with Princess Diana in a revelation that has left royal watchers stunned. For years, tabloids painted the two women as rivals, their relationship fraught with tension and unspoken animosity. However, Anne's recent comments reveal a far more complex and nuanced dynamic between the two, one that challenges long-held public narratives. Anne admitted that while she and Diana were never the closest of friends, their relationship was not as icy as the media often portrayed. "We were different people," Anne reportedly said, "but that doesn't mean we didn't understand each other." She went on to acknowledge that Diana faced immense pressures from the moment she entered the royal family, and while Anne herself had grown accustomed to the rigid expectations of royal life, she recognized that Diana struggled to adapt. She wasn't just the glamorous figure the public saw, Anne shared. She was a woman under incredible strain, trying to find her place in a world that didn't always make it easy. What makes Anne's comments so compelling is her willingness to admit the emotional toll of royal life, something the royal family rarely discusses openly. She described how Diana, despite her outward poise and charm, often felt isolated within the palace walls. Diana was very much on her own, Anne said. She had this incredible ability to connect with the public, but within the family, she sometimes felt like an outsider. Anne's words suggest a quiet empathy for her late sister-in-law, even if their personalities and approaches to duty were worlds apart. Anne also reflected on the breakdown of Diana's marriage to Prince Charles, offering a perspective that few have dared to voice. While the public has long viewed Diana as the victim and Charles as the villain, Anne's insights paint a more balanced picture. She acknowledged that both Diana and Charles were trapped in roles that left little room for personal happiness. It wasn't just one-sided, Anne explained. The pressures on them both were enormous, and I don't think anyone could fully understand what they were going through unless they lived it themselves. She even admitted that she often felt helpless watching the couple's struggles unfold, knowing there was little she could do to bridge the growing divide between them. Perhaps the most surprising part of Anne's comments is her admission of regret. She confessed that, in hindsight, she wishes she had done more to support Diana during her most challenging moments. "I could see how much she was hurting," Anne said. "But at the time, I didn't realize the extent of it. I think we all underestimated just how difficult it was for her." This rare moment of vulnerability from Anne adds a new layer of understanding to their relationship, suggesting that while they may not have been close, there was a mutual respect and a shared understanding of the burdens they each carried. Anne and Diana's nuanced relationship. The relationship between Princess Anne and Princess Diana has long been a topic of speculation and intrigue. For years, the narrative painted them as rivals, two women at odds, their personalities clashing within the confines of the royal household. Anne, the disciplined and no-nonsense Princess Royal, was seen as a stark contrast to Diana, the emotional and charismatic people's princess. However, recent insights into their dynamic reveal a bond that was far more complex, layered with moments of tension, empathy, and mutual understanding. Princess Anne, known for her reserved and pragmatic approach to royal life, has rarely commented on her relationship with Diana. But when she shared her reflections, the picture she painted was one of quiet respect rather than outright hostility. Anne acknowledged that while the two women were never particularly close, they shared a unique connection forged by the immense pressures of royal life. Their bond, though far from a sisterly friendship, was shaped by an understanding of the unique challenges they faced as women navigating the rigid expectations of the monarchy. The media often exaggerated their differences, fueling speculation of rivalry. Anne, with her traditional duty-first outlook, was said to have little patience for Diana's more modern, emotive approach to royal work. Diana, meanwhile, was often portrayed as an outsider within the royal family. But Anne's perspective offers a more nuanced view. She admired Diana's ability to connect with people and acknowledged her struggles in adapting to the constraints of royal life. It was clear to Anne that Diana faced pressures few could comprehend, from the relentless scrutiny of the media to the isolation she felt within the palace walls. Despite their differences, Anne reportedly felt a sense of responsibility toward Diana. She was aware of the immense expectations placed on her younger sister-in-law, particularly as Diana's marriage to Prince Charles began to crumble. Anne, having grown up within the royal system, understood the emotional toll of living under constant public scrutiny. While she may not have been the warm, comforting figure Diana needed, Anne offered her own form of support, practical advice, and a steady hand when things became overwhelming. Still, their relationship was far from easy. Anne's straightforward demeanor sometimes clashed with Diana's sensitivity, and the media's relentless focus on Diana as the star of the royal family created friction within the household. Anne, who had spent her life working tirelessly to fulfill her royal duties without fanfare, often found herself overshadowed by Diana's celebrity. Yet, Anne never allowed these challenges to overshadow her recognition of Diana's strengths. She admired Diana's courage and her determination to use her platform to champion important social causes, such as mental health awareness and the fight against AIDS. Anne's reflections also highlight the emotional complexity of their relationship. She admitted that she didn't fully understand the depth of Diana's struggles at the time, but wished she had done more to support her. This sense of regret adds a poignant layer to their bond. It wasn't a relationship of constant camaraderie or deep mutual affection, but it was one marked by moments of quiet solidarity and shared understanding. The truth about Diana's struggles. Diana's life may have looked like a fairy tale from the outside, but behind the palace walls, she endured struggles that were anything but glamorous. While the world adored her for her beauty, compassion, and ability to connect with people, Diana's personal life was fraught with challenges that came with being part of the royal family. Beneath the tiaras and royal appearances was a woman grappling with an overwhelming sense of isolation, relentless public scrutiny, and the impossible expectations placed upon her. Diana joined the royal family at just 20 years old when she married Prince Charles. She was thrust into the global spotlight almost overnight, celebrated as the perfect princess who would modernize the monarchy. However, this idealized image was far from reality. Diana found herself in a rigid institution that left little room for individuality or emotional vulnerability. The royal family, steeped in centuries of tradition, valued duty and composure above all else, making it difficult for Diana, a deeply emotional and empathetic person, to feel at ease. One of Diana's greatest struggles was her inability to conform to the royal family's unspoken rules. She wasn't just expected to play the role of a loving wife and mother, but to do so without complaint, all while under the unrelenting gaze of the media. The royal family's preference for privacy and stoicism often clashed with Diana's more open and emotional nature. Her attempts to forge her own path, whether through her humanitarian work or her decision to speak openly about her mental health struggles, were seen as rebellious and disruptive. The pressure Diana faced was compounded by the breakdown of her marriage to Prince Charles. While their union started as a highly publicized fairy tale, it quickly descended into turmoil. The couple's incompatibility became glaringly obvious as the years went on, with Diana feeling increasingly alienated within her own marriage. Her husband's well-documented relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles only deepened her sense of rejection and heartbreak. For Diana, the end of her marriage wasn't just a personal failure, it was a public spectacle that played out in front of millions. Diana's struggles also extended to her role as a mother. While she was devoted to her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, The demands of royal life often kept her from spending as much time with them as she wanted. The rigid schedules and constant appearances meant that even her most personal relationships were affected by her royal duties. Despite these challenges, Diana worked tirelessly to shield her children from the harsher realities of royal life, determined to give them as normal an upbringing as possible. Perhaps the greatest weight Diana carried was the media's obsession with her. From the moment she entered the royal family, she became one of the most photographed women in the world. The press hounded her every move, turning her personal struggles into headlines and reducing her humanity to a series of tabloid stories. While Diana learned to use the media to her advantage at times, particularly in bringing attention to her charitable causes, the constant intrusion into her private life was a source of immense pain. Anne's perspective on Charles and Diana. The marriage of Prince Charles and Princess Diana was one of the most scrutinized and tumultuous royal relationships in modern history. What began as a fairy tale quickly unraveled into a story of heartbreak, betrayal, and public spectacle. Over the years, countless narratives have emerged, often framing Diana as the victim and Charles as the villain. However, Princess Anne, Charles's sister, has offered a more balanced and nuanced perspective, shedding light on the complexities of a union that was doomed from the start. As someone who observed their marriage up close, Anne's insights reveal how the pressures of royal life played a significant role in the breakdown of their relationship. From the moment Diana joined the royal family, she was thrust into a role that required perfection, poise, and unwavering dedication to duty. For a young woman still discovering herself, these expectations were overwhelming. Charles, meanwhile, carried the weight of being the future king, bound by tradition, duty, and the need to maintain a certain image. According to Anne, the combination of these pressures created a situation where neither Diana nor Charles could truly thrive. Anne's perspective challenges the one-dimensional narrative that has often dominated public discourse. While Diana undoubtedly faced immense struggles and heartbreak, Anne acknowledges that Charles, too, was a victim of the rigid expectations placed upon him. As the heir to the throne, Charles was raised with a sense of responsibility that often took precedence over his personal happiness. This dynamic created a fundamental disconnect between him and Diana, who craved emotional connection and support. Their differing needs and the lack of understanding between them set the stage for a marriage that was fraught with tension from the beginning. The media's relentless focus on their relationship only added fuel to the fire. Diana became a global icon, adored by millions for her warmth and compassion. In contrast, Charles was often portrayed as cold and disconnected, a man more concerned with duty than love. Anne, however, suggests that this portrayal oversimplifies the reality. While Charles's reserved nature may have made him appear distant, he too felt the strain of being in a marriage that could never meet the expectations of the public or the crown. The constant scrutiny placed an enormous strain on both individuals, leaving little room for them to work through their differences privately. Anne also points to the institution of the monarchy itself as a factor in the marriage's failure. The royal family's rigid traditions and lack of emotional openness made it difficult for Diana and Charles to address their issues in a meaningful way. Anne, who has always been known for her pragmatic and straightforward nature, observed how both Diana and Charles were trapped in roles that left little room for personal growth or happiness. Diana's desire to break free from these constraints clashed with Charles's adherence to tradition, further widening the gap between them. Diana's legacy, more than tragedy, a symbol of change. Princess Diana is remembered as one of the most iconic figures of the 20th century, a woman whose life was filled with glamour and heartbreak, but whose legacy goes far beyond the headlines. While much of the narrative surrounding Diana has focused on her personal struggles and tragic death, her true impact lies in the profound changes she inspired both within the royal family and around the world. Diana was not just a symbol of tragedy, she was a force for change, compassion, and courage, embodying a modern spirit that challenged centuries-old traditions. When Diana entered the royal family, she was just 20 years old, but she quickly became a global sensation. Her beauty, charisma, and natural ability to connect with people captivated the world. However, Diana's legacy was not built on glamour alone. She used her platform to bring attention to issues that had long been ignored, breaking through the often detached and formal image of the monarchy. Diana humanized royalty in a way that had never been seen before, showing vulnerability and empathy that resonated deeply with people. One of Diana's most significant contributions was her willingness to tackle taboo subjects head-on. At a time when AIDS was heavily stigmatized, Diana was one of the first public figures to openly advocate for compassion toward those living with the disease. In 1987, she made headlines when she shook hands with an AIDS patient without wearing gloves, a moment that challenged widespread misconceptions and fear about the illness. This single act of kindness and courage helped break down barriers and change public attitudes toward the LGBTQ+ community and those affected by the epidemic. Diana's humanitarian work extended to many other causes. She became a vocal advocate for mental health awareness, speaking openly about her own struggles with bulimia and depression. By sharing her story, Diana helped destigmatize mental health issues at a time when such topics were rarely discussed, let alone by someone in her position. Her honesty and vulnerability made her relatable to millions, and she became a symbol of strength for those battling personal challenges. Another defining aspect of Diana's legacy was her work on landmine removal. In 1997, shortly before her death, she famously walked through an active minefield in Angola, drawing global attention to the devastating impact of landmines on civilian communities. Her involvement in the campaign ultimately helped pave the way for the international treaty banning landmines, a testament to the power of using her platform for meaningful change. Diana's influence extended beyond her activism. She also reshaped the perception of what it meant to be a royal. Unlike the stiff, traditional image often associated with the monarchy, Diana was warm, approachable, and unafraid to show her emotions. She connected with people on a human level, whether through her charity work, her candid interviews, or her interactions with everyday people. This authenticity made her beloved by the public, but also put her at odds with the royal family, which often prioritized duty over personal expression. Diana's willingness to break away from the royal mold helped modernize the monarchy, setting the stage for future generations of royals to be more open and relatable. The pressures of royal life, Anne's humanizing glimpse. Behind the royal curtain, to the outside world, the royal family may appear as a picture of perfection. With their polished appearances, grand traditions, and carefully curated public image, it's easy to assume their lives are a fairy tale. However, Princess Anne's rare reflections provide a very different perspective. As one of the most grounded and hardworking members of the family, Anne has offered a glimpse behind the palace walls, revealing the immense pressures and emotional challenges that come with life as a royal. Her candid insights paint a picture of a family that, despite its grandeur, is far from immune to emotional struggles and personal sacrifices. Anne's reflections challenge the public's perception of what it means to be a royal. While many see the monarchy as a life of privilege and luxury, Anne emphasizes the weight of responsibility that comes with the role. Every action, word, and decision is scrutinized by the world, leaving little room for error or individuality. For members of the royal family, personal struggles must often be hidden behind a facade of composure, as the institution prioritizes duty and tradition over personal expression. This constant pressure to appear perfect in the public eye takes an immense emotional toll, a reality that Anne has witnessed firsthand throughout her life. Growing up as the daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, Anne understood from an early age that her life would never be her own. Every aspect of her existence was tied to duty, from the way she dressed to the causes she supported. While Anne embraced this role with determination and pragmatism, she recognized early on that not everyone in the family was able to navigate these expectations as easily. The rigid structure of the monarchy often leaves little room for vulnerability, a reality that proved especially challenging for Diana, who struggled to balance her personal emotions with the demands of royal life. Anne's reflections on Diana's struggles shed light on the pressures unique to women in the royal family. Diana, known for her openness and emotional depth, found it particularly difficult to conform to the monarchy's unspoken rules. As a young bride thrust into the spotlight, she was expected to maintain a flawless public image while navigating the complexities of a high-profile marriage. For someone as empathetic and emotionally expressive as Diana, the royal family's stiff traditions and lack of emotional support were isolating and overwhelming. Anne, who had spent her life mastering the art of emotional restraint, saw firsthand how these pressures affected Diana and wished she could have done more to help. Anne also highlighted the role of the media in amplifying the pressures of royal life. The constant intrusion of the press, combined with their tendency to sensationalize conflict, made it nearly impossible for members of the family to address their personal struggles privately. Diana, in particular, bore the brunt of this relentless scrutiny. Her every move was photographed, analyzed, and turned into headlines, creating a narrative that was often far removed from the truth. Anne recognized how this constant invasion of privacy worsened Diana's struggles, leaving her feeling even more isolated within the palace walls. Anne challenges public perceptions of Diana. For decades, the relationship between Princess Anne and Princess Diana has been shrouded in speculation, shaped largely by the media's portrayal of their supposed rivalry. Tabloids often framed Anne as the cold, traditional royal, in stark contrast to Diana, the warm and glamorous people's princess. However, recent reflections from Princess Anne have challenged these long-held perceptions, revealing a more complicated and nuanced relationship. Her candid insights offer a fresh perspective, not only on their personal dynamic, but also on the struggles Diana faced within the royal family, and how they were often misunderstood by the public. Anne's reflections dismantle the myth of an antagonistic relationship between the two women. While their personalities and approaches to royal life were undeniably different, Anne has made it clear that this did not mean they were adversaries. The media's tendency to pit them against each other oversimplified what was, in reality, a far more layered connection. Anne, known for her reserved and pragmatic nature, often found herself misunderstood by a public that adored Diana's emotional openness. Yet, behind the scenes, Anne harbored a quiet empathy for Diana's struggles, recognizing the immense pressures her sister-in-law faced as she navigated life in the spotlight. One of the most striking revelations from Anne is her acknowledgement of the complexities of Diana's role within the royal family. From the outside, Diana's life seemed like a dream. Married to the future king, adored by millions, and living in palaces. But Anne's perspective sheds light on the immense expectations and scrutiny Diana faced, which often left her feeling trapped and isolated. Unlike Anne, who had spent her entire life preparing for royal duty, Diana entered this world as an outsider. She was expected to adapt quickly to a rigid and traditional institution, all while under the unrelenting gaze of the media. Anne's remarks highlight how these pressures created a unique set of challenges for Diana, ones that few could fully understand. Anne's reflections also challenge the overly simplistic narrative of Diana as a victim, and the royal family as a cold, unfeeling institution. While she acknowledges the difficulties Diana faced, Anne also points to the complexities of the royal system itself. It is an institution steeped in centuries of tradition, where personal emotions are often sacrificed for duty. Anne, who had long since learned to navigate these unspoken rules, saw how they clashed with Diana's desire for emotional connection and personal freedom. This mismatch between Diana's needs and the institution's expectations created friction, not only for Diana, but for those around her as well. Anne's role as Diana's quiet support system. Diana's struggles within the royal family are well documented, but what is often overlooked is the quiet support she received from her sister-in-law, Princess Anne. Known for her no-nonsense demeanor and strong work ethic, Anne was never one to seek the public spotlight, nor did she openly display her emotions. Yet behind the scenes, Anne played a subtle but significant role in offering Diana guidance and understanding during some of her most challenging times in the royal family. Their relationship may not have been one of constant closeness, but Anne's quiet support provided Diana with a rare sense of solidarity in a world that often felt isolating. From the moment Diana joined the royal family, she was thrust into an intense spotlight that demanded perfection and poise. As a young bride navigating a high-profile marriage and the unrelenting expectations of royal life, Diana often found herself overwhelmed and unsupported. While the royal family as a whole has long been seen as emotionally distant, Anne's unique position as someone who had spent her entire life in the monarchy gave her insights into the pressures Diana faced. Unlike many others in the family, Anne understood the toll that constant public scrutiny and rigid royal protocols could take on an individual. Though she and Diana were very different in personality and approach, Anne felt a certain responsibility to offer her support whenever possible. Anne's support for Diana was often subtle and understated. She was not one to openly express sympathy or engage in emotional displays, but she offered Diana something just as valuable: practical advice and a steady perspective. Having grown up as the daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, Anne had spent her entire life balancing duty and personal identity, and she recognized the challenges Diana faced in trying to do the same. Anne's guidance often came in the form of quiet conversations, where she shared her own experiences and insights about navigating the complexities of royal life. While these exchanges may not have been the deeply emotional connections Diana longed for, they provided her with a sense of understanding that she rarely found within the royal family. Despite her efforts, Anne was sometimes limited in how much support she could provide. Diana's struggles were deeply personal and often tied to her emotional needs, which clashed with the royal family's stoic and reserved nature. While Anne could empathize with the pressures Diana faced, their differing personalities sometimes created a barrier between them. Anne, known for her pragmatism, approached challenges with a stiff upper lip, while Diana's more emotional and vulnerable nature often left her feeling isolated. Even so, Anne's willingness to listen and offer advice created moments of connection between the two women, however fleeting they may have been. The media's role in shaping Diana and Anne's relationship. Princess Diana and Princess Anne have long been subjects of fascination for the media. 1. The glamorous People's Princess, beloved for her emotional openness and humanitarian work. The other, the reserved and hard-working Princess Royal, known for her no-nonsense attitude. The press, eager for a compelling narrative, often used their contrasting personalities to create a story of rivalry and tension between the two women. But as Princess Anne has recently revealed, the reality of their relationship was far more complex than the tabloids ever depicted. The media, in its relentless pursuit of drama, played a central role in distorting public perception and shaping how the world viewed their bond. From the moment Diana entered the royal family, she became the media's favorite subject. Her beauty, charm, and vulnerability made her an icon, but they also made her an easy target for sensationalized storytelling. The press often portrayed her as a lonely, misunderstood figure, struggling to find her place within the rigid confines of the monarchy. In contrast, Princess Anne was depicted as cold and unfeeling, a woman who resented Diana's popularity and charm. These narratives, while compelling to readers, oversimplified their dynamic and ignored the realities of their individual lives and pressures. The media's tendency to pit Diana and Anne against each other created an enduring myth of conflict between the two women. The tabloids often compared Anne's traditional, duty-driven approach to Diana's more modern and emotional style, framing them as opposites in a family deeply divided. Anne, who had spent her life avoiding the spotlight and focusing on her royal responsibilities, was often overshadowed by Diana's star power. This led to speculation that Anne resented Diana's popularity, a narrative that gained traction despite little evidence to support it. The truth, as Anne herself has since shared, was far more nuanced. While they may not have been close friends, Anne had a deep understanding of the pressures Diana faced and quietly empathized with her struggles. The media's obsession with Diana also exacerbated the challenges she faced within the royal family. Every aspect of her life was scrutinized and turned into headlines, leaving little room for her to address personal conflicts privately. Anne, who had long endured the public's focus on more glamorous members of the family, recognized how damaging this constant attention could be. Yet, the media rarely highlighted moments of solidarity between Diana and Anne, instead choosing to focus on perceived tensions. This selective storytelling shaped public opinion, creating a false narrative that ignored the complexities of their relationship. Anne's recent reflections have offered a rare glimpse into the reality behind the headlines. She acknowledged how the media's portrayal of Diana as a tragic figure often overshadowed her strengths and contributions. Anne herself was not immune to the media's distortions, frequently cast as a stern and distant presence in Diana's life. However, Anne's candid remarks reveal that she respected Diana's ability to use her platform for good, and admired her courage in addressing personal struggles publicly. These moments of empathy and understanding were rarely captured by the press, which preferred to focus on conflict rather than connection. Anne's regrets and insights after Diana's passing. Princess Diana's untimely death in 1997 sent shockwaves across the world, leaving behind a legacy of compassion, resilience, and tragedy. For Princess Anne, Diana's passing was not only a moment of collective grief, but also a deeply personal reckoning. Anne, known for her pragmatic and reserved nature, has rarely spoken about her relationship with Diana. But her recent reflections reveal a surprising depth of emotion and regret. These insights provide a more human and nuanced look at Anne's understanding of Diana's struggles and their complicated bond within the royal family. Anne's reflections shed light on the quiet role she played in Diana's life and the sense of responsibility she carried, even if it was not always apparent to the public. While their personalities and approaches to royal life were starkly different, Anne has admitted that she was acutely aware of the immense pressures Diana faced. As someone who had grown up navigating the rigid expectations of the monarchy, Anne recognized the emotional toll that royal life inflicted, particularly on someone like Diana, who craved connection and emotional support. Despite this awareness, Anne has confessed that she wishes she had done more to help Diana during her most challenging moments, a regret that has lingered in the years since her passing. Part of Anne's regret stems from her realization of how isolated Diana often felt within the royal family. While Anne had developed a thick skin and a straightforward approach to handling royal duties, Diana struggled with the unspoken rules and emotional distance that often defined life within the institution. Anne has since acknowledged that Diana's struggles were more profound than she had fully understood at the time. She has spoken about how the royal family's emphasis on duty and composure left little room for vulnerability, a dynamic that likely exacerbated Diana's feelings of loneliness and rejection. Anne has also reflected on the role of the media in amplifying Diana's struggles and how this relentless scrutiny worsened her isolation. While Anne herself had long avoided the spotlight, preferring to focus on her royal duties without fanfare, she understood the unique pressures Diana faced as one of the most photographed and talked about women in the world. The public adoration that Diana received often created friction within the royal family, but Anne now sees it as both a blessing and a burden for her sister-in-law. She has expressed admiration for how Diana used her platform to advocate for important causes, even as it came at great personal cost.